Hello and welcome to the VES Autodesk Ask Me Anything VFX Pros Tell All webcast. I'm Naomi Goldman, VES Communications Director, and I'm happy to serve as our moderator today. We're delighted you're joining us for this series of conversations with leading visual effects professionals, brought to you by the Visual Effects Society, the industry's global professional honorary society, and Autodesk, worldwide leaders in 3D design, engineering, and entertainment software. Our topic today, we're taking an inside look at Exceptional Minds Studio and chatting a bit about neurodiversity in VFX. For nearly a decade, Exceptional Minds programs have enabled artists with autism to launch careers in animation and the digital arts. The studio and its partners are building a future where neurodiverse perspectives advance an inclusive hiring culture in the entertainment industry through job training, hands-on experience, and career path planning. We're in for what will certainly be an insightful conversation about this unique studio, its exceptional artists, and how it's helping to broaden the lens of inclusive hiring across the entertainment industry. Joining us today are our panelists. They are, so you can wave, Xavier Strum, an Exceptional Minds graduate and full-time junior lead VFX compositor at Exceptional Minds Studio, who has accrued more than 40 professional credits across television and film in his 5 years at the studio. Thank you for joining us, Xavier. Next up, please wave to Xavier Romo, a plates lab wrangler and technician in training at the Motion Picture Labs at Walt Disney Studios. Prior to working at Marvel, he was also an Exceptional Minds graduate, and at Disney, he has worked on projects such as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Secret Invasion. And then finally, we have Mike Schmueck, who's director of Exceptional Minds Studio Programs VFX, and he brings vast expertise with more than 12 years experience on projects including The Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Bird Box, and has implemented new metrics for studio performance and has fostered a positive, growth-oriented environment for the artists. Very quick note of housekeeping. The webcast will run about an hour. This live conversation is being recorded and it will be available later on the VES and Autodesk websites and social media channels, and I'm sure on the Exceptional Minds channels as well. And we'll share some details at the end of the session. In terms of asking questions, if you're following on Zoom and would like to ask any of our panelists a question, go to the toolbar, click Q&A, and type in your question. And if you're on Facebook Live, enter your question as a comment. We can't promise we'll get to them all, but we'll do our best. So now that we're ready to begin, I want to set the stage and give everyone a truly exciting introduction to Exceptional Minds. And we have a little video that's going to come up on the screen. So please roll the video.
Exceptional Minds is a vocational training program for young adults on the autism spectrum who want to have careers in animation and visual effects.
At Exceptional Minds, we're very aware of the fact there are too many young adults with autism that are unemployed. There's nothing that they can't do, and they keep proving it time and time again.
At this school, we ask, what is your goal? What is your dream?
They give them confidence, they give them certification, they give them something tangible to use in their future.
I've been able to grow so much, started seeing more clarity in my art style.
It has been amazing just discovering what I'm good at.
Learn more about visual effects, and now I do it full time.
They know that they are making progress towards an achievable goal, not just a job, but a career path.
The environment that we're given here is encouraging that creativity, the talent within us.
This was where I was going to get the necessary skills to do what I wanted to do.
They have so much that is untapped, and we need to explore to find out where their strengths are.
They're feeling good about what they do and what they can do in the future. we go hand in hand with their focus and determination makes our movies far better.
Some of our graduates have gone on to work in Nickelodeon, Marvel Studios, Cartoon Network, Mattel, Sony, and Fox. The studio is their first step into the professional world. Our Exceptional Minds studio has worked on over 700 projects, employing dozens of graduates. We've formed amazing partnerships with all the major studios and streamers over the past 10 years.
EM represents acceptance, inclusivity, hope, and a sense of community.
It's a place where you can be comfortable.
Life-changing.
I feel so much less alone than I used to.
It feels like I'm a member of society.
These first 10 years for Exceptional Minds is something for us to celebrate.
Exceptional Minds represents possibility and a reminder never to set limitations on someone.
If you can connect people with their dreams, then the magic happens.
One dream would be that Exceptional Minds is not only producing visual effects artists and animators, but hopefully directors, producers.
We have an opportunity to give to every single student at this school who will actually be able to go out and participate in the dream.
Exceptional Minds helped me.
You come out with a bunch of friends and some new knowledge.
It was some of the best 3 years of my life.
Has really been a wondrous experience.
It was the best risk that I ever took.
So yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Love to congratulate Exceptional Minds on a decade of impact.
Go out there and keep changing the world.
The next generation after me is going to be in safe hands, and I look forward to seeing that future.
Well, that was a really inspiring kickoff to our conversation. So Isaiah, Mike, and Xavier, thanks so much for joining me today and joining the folks who are tuning in. How's everyone doing today? Ready for a nice chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Mike, given your role at the studio, that was obviously a really inspiring and compelling introduction to Exceptional Minds. But why don't you talk a little bit more from your perch on what makes Exceptional Minds so unique as a studio?
Absolutely. I think the first thing to mention is, of course, this studio doesn't exist without our academy. We are an academy first, here to train artists in animation and visual effects. And my job in running the studio is to provide additional runway. You know, I think we all know at different points, even if you graduate with a degree, you know, once you're done, there is the difficulty of taking that next step and moving from having some technical skills, some experience in, you know, an educational environment to getting those first couple of jobs and beginning your career inside of animation, inside of visual effects. And so the studio here exists specifically to provide that additional time for, you know, skill increase, for, you know, getting the experience, the resume, and the demo reel materials together to be able to move on to entry-level position at another studio in town or throughout the world. You know, the way I look at it is, if this studio grows too big, I've made a terrible mistake, because my job is to build artists, not a studio.
Right. So your artists, your graduates are producing exceptional visual effects work. And of course, one of the things that is unique is your artist population. So how does Exceptional Minds approach working with neurodiverse individuals and students and burgeoning artists? You know, what is different about your approach?
Well, I think the first thing to say is, you know, something that we regularly say around here is that if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. You know, it is a spectrum for a reason. There are many different people with many different experiences with regards to autism. These gentlemen will speak to their own in a little bit, I'm sure. But the important thing is being open and being communicative and aware enough to learn how this person needs to communicate with you, how you need to communicate with them. It's about taking the time, and I think that this applies whether it's within autism or without it. In general, I think more time needs to be spent actually understanding person to person how we communicate, how we understand, how we learn. So Exceptional Minds, on the academy side, we generally have a 6 students to 1 teacher ratio. So there's a lot of, real focus on the individual and understanding them and their needs, kind of a bespoken approach. And then that continues in the studio environment. The studio is a little different. We are, working on real projects with major clients, and we do still have to hit deadlines in a way that you don't have the same experience in the academy. No matter how much a deadline for a project may feel big when you're in school, it's a little different once you're in the real world. And so while we have to, keep our clients happy and make sure that we're delivering the, high quality work that we expect, we at the same time really can focus on building these artists. And so I think the biggest difference is really focusing on them and their specific needs, as opposed to coming up with a one-size-fits-all approach.
Got it. And I just want to ask you 1 or 2 other questions, and then we'll meet some of our other friends here. So one is, in the time that Exceptional Minds has been running, do you have a sense about how many people have graduated through the academy? Do you have a sense of sort of like the scale of who's come through your program?
Yeah, I can say that I know within the VFX studio at different points, we have hired 28 of our graduates over the nearly a decade that the studio's been working on projects. I believe that there are around 100 graduates of the program overall over that time frame. An average class runs around 12 or 13 students. That's mixed between animation and visual effects. Of that, 28 have come through the studio at one point or another. We currently have 8 graduates that have been regularly over the course of this year working at the studio, with another 3 or 4 that we'd like to bring in after testing them and making sure that, understanding exactly where they will fit within the VFX studio, that are recent graduates. And
So I have a question already from one of our board members who's viewing, who works on a lot of our educational work for the VES. And he's wondering, if you have a studio on the East Coast, is it sort of a vision or a dream in terms of having another location in addition to what you have here in the greater Los Angeles area as a physical training facility?
We don't at this time have another studio location beyond our one in Sherman Oaks. It's something that's been discussed. It comes down to both need, opportunity, and availability of funds. We are a nonprofit, and so there's always the question of making sure that we've got the proper support to not just open it, but be able to continue to support it.
Sure.
We've had conversations and people reach out about potential satellite offices, other locations in a number of regions, actually. And it's something that we take seriously, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our first focus is on the artists and graduates we have now, to make sure that we aren't, we want to make sure that we grow in a responsible way that doesn't shortchange any of the current people that have gone through the program. Because again, in the end, our focus is on them and their career growth.
Well, thanks so much. I definitely will have more questions for you a little bit later. But for now, I'm going to say hello to Isaiah.
Hello.
Good morning, or almost good afternoon, Isaiah. Thanks so much for being here. I know one of the things you and I talked about is that we do both love things like superhero movies. And so we understand that people have origin stories we like to tell. So I was hoping, Isaiah, you could share a little bit about who you are and your background, and then we can talk about how you found your way to Exceptional Minds. So tell us a little bit about you.
Growing up, I have a single parent. I'm just raised by my mom. I'm half black, half white, so mixed race. I'm on the autism spectrum, and then sometime in my high school years. I also became diabetic. And so life has been like, it hasn't been all that difficult for me, but in terms of learning and the differences, I've been lucky to go to places that support that. And one of those places is Exceptional Minds, which originally I went to for animation. And then one of the teachers there, Josh, who works with Xavier, he found out that I have a talent for visual effects, and I've been running with that since. And I have a small correction. In total of the amount of credits that I have around 80.
Well, there you go.
Not all of them are visual effects. Some of them are titles, like end credit titles. But yeah.
Well, that's important. I mean, I know one of the things I'm sure everyone learns in these programs, how to be your own best self-advocate, right? So, right, there's a good example right there. So thanks for updating the record. When you were young, were there particular anything like movies or TV shows that you remember like sparked any of your original interest in films or visual effects?
Early on, I used to have this reoccurring nightmare because of the movie Titanic. It was super hyper realistic, but it's always stuck with me, the beauty of film. Grew up with Star Wars, and then I've always loved comics, so being able to see all the Marvel films coming out with stunning visual effects, or it's being able to work on those things is a dream come true.
So you said that it was one of your teachers in high school who introduced you to this program. Is that right?
I had a animation and film teacher in high school that introduced me to Exceptional Minds, and I was like, yeah, let's check it out. And then I loved the program. I went through all 3 years, obviously. Graduated in 2018. I love it here. Now I'm a full-time artist here. One of the 2 graduates that became full-time artists.
So tell me a little bit about the program itself. What did what were you concerned about? Were there things that were really challenging, or just really supportive things that stood out to you? Tell us a little bit about what the experience was like for you going through the training at the Academy.
Well, the first year was great. It had a more foundation in like art and just making sure people had a good foundation in art and composition. And then second year, I got a little worried because I was doing animation, and I found out that animation is a lot of repetitive work. I mean, so is visual effects, but it's a different kind of repetitive work. It's more of a finite detail than an abstract, oh, you got to make this exact same motion with your hand to draw that line. And then I got put on the visual effects track, and then my worries kind of alleviated, and I found out that I was just good at visual effects. And it's been a journey. I still remember probably about a month ago, maybe a little less, I was going through some old shots for like our visual effects for our reel and for my reel, and I ended up having to redo a shot. And then my experience now as an artist is like way different than I was when I started out. It it was way easier, and it took me like half a day as opposed to like a day and a half that it originally took.
And did Exceptional Minds help do any sort of like on-site training, to kind of help you navigate anything that you thought could be challenging in the workplace?
Yeah, we have a work readiness class. So we work on both people skills, job skills, being able to represent ourselves well, as well as like do interviews and things like that. And then another thing is that I actually worked at both Sony and Fox doing some motion capture stuff. And Exceptional Minds helped me get those jobs. And the Exceptional Minds came to the offices there and then had a special training on working with neurodiverse people, so that the people there had the opportunity to understand that people learn different, or like people might need this type of accommodation or something, things like that. And it's been really, really helpful. The people that I've worked with have been real supportive, and there's continuing job readiness stuff. Like we can update our resumes and have the academy, like some people in the academy or what some of the teachers look at our resumes and say, "Oh, change this or change that." And it's been a great experience.
Wonderful. I'm definitely going to come back to you in a few minutes, but now I'm going to jump over to our friend Xavier, coming live from inside the Millennial Falcon, correct?
Yes, correct.
So if I say Star Wars or Star Trek, what is your answer?
My answer is Star Wars for action sequences and Star Trek for diplomacy.
Okay.
Basic answer right there. And Next Generation for the win too.
All right, there you go. So again, why don't you tell us, Xavier, a little bit about your kind of origin story and finding your way to Exceptional Minds?
So my origin story is an interesting one because of the fact that it almost feels like I took the long way around to get to here, and that like film, it wasn't my original goal. So I was a history major back in college, and I got my associate's degree in that. But I was in work programs that helped out individuals that are differently abled. And it was a challenge for me because I had the social skills and the technical skills, but when it came to finding myself like a job somewhere that I could fit in, it kind of seemed like not much was being offered from there that would be able to meet those skills that I had. Until my mom found out about Exceptional Minds, and it was something totally different. I had no experience in visual effects, no experience in animation, but what I did go in with was a drive to work and to get myself towards that career path, which was really good. And when I met the director of the program, who was Ernie at the time, he was able to see in me that I did want to work, that I had that drive. And so I went through my classes from there. And in my third year, they were able to design a production management course for me, which was great because it taught me a lot of skills in communication and being able to work with teams. And halfway through that third year, I got brought down by my visual effects instructor, who's now actually our lead technician, Josh Dagg. And he was able to bring me down to the studio that they had at Exceptional Minds. So I did end credits work there and have basically worked on every Marvel project since the first Black Panther. Up to this point, yeah, pretty much all of those. And then graduation night, there was an announcement of the job at Marvel, and I went for it. and it was me and another graduate that I was going with for the jobs. I would have been happy for either of us, but it just happened to line up where I got the job. And so now I've been at Marvel/Disney for over 5 years, which is crazy to think about that, but it makes me so happy. And yeah, I love the team that I work on, and it's just I love the work that we're putting out there as well.
Well, I think we're a group of Marvel geeks, so we could certainly go down that road. But I think one of the things you shared with me is that am I correct? Are there some special accommodations that, kind of help you in the workplace?
Yeah.
That Disney or Marvel kind of have helped to make it a more inclusive environment for you?
Yeah, there really are. We're allowed to take breaks during the day, and so I use those breaks to get in walks around the studio, which is great to do that on. And it helps me, especially if I have something that I'm working on that I'm not quite able to figure out. I can take a walk for like 15 minutes or so, come back into the office, and then I'm coming in with a fresh mind. And I also really appreciate my relationship with my supervisor as well, because it allows it where we can ask for help when needed, but we're also left to do the work on our own as well, which is nice to have that freedom there for, while also having that support of being able to reach out if any problems come up. So those are the big ones that I've noticed for.
So I think both you and Isaiah have gone from a place where, you were someone who was on the receiving end of a lot of mentorship, and now people are looking to you, right? As leaders, as mentors. So Xavier, what's that like for you in terms of now being a mentor, a leader, a role model to other people? How do you share from your story, your advice or your lessons learned?
Well, it's interesting because when I got to that position, it felt not weird, but it was interesting because of the fact that I went from being the one that would be like asking for help and all that to being able to provide advice, and even to provide advice to people at work that aren't neurodiverse. And it's just so interesting to have that. But I think for me, I've also taken on the role of like leading the alumni association at Exceptional Minds. And that one's so interesting to be in that position where I'm able to provide help and support to graduates. And right now I just have my team that I'm working with there. But even then, to be able to like give them ideas or like put together plans for what we're going to do, it's a trip to be in that position. So I really like that. And also being able to provide firsthand experiences of what it's like working within a studio and being on the autism spectrum, to be able to give people like a better idea of how that works. It's a trip. Right?
Well, we're so glad that, you're in that role. So Isaiah, what about you? Again, you were somebody who was having a lot of people mentor you, and I'm sure that still continues. And now people look to you for leadership and, advice based on your experience. What are some things you like to share with people about some of your lessons learned or advice?
For one, I want to speak on the transition to being more of a leadership role.
Great.
When we got back from COVID, I was one of the person that the lead. Words are escaping me. Our studio supervisor would rely on to help get everyone to do what they were supposed to do. I was the one that kind of like congregated work that was worked on by multiple people. I would take on the harder shots, and then all of a sudden, one of our most recent projects, I can't really say the name of it yet, but we got to use this new it's not necessarily new, but for us it was new program called Keen Tools, which is a face tracker that that creates a 3D model of the head and textures it and tracks even the mouth movements. And we had to remove some mutton chops. And so I had to learn how to use that program, and then I had to teach it to all the artists, and then get them to work with it within 2 weeks. And we got the job done ahead of time and stuff, and it was a fantastic experience. It was a lot of pressure, but I'm working with some great artists, but and then now they come to me whenever they need help, or the supervisor, but I'm right next to them, so.
That's fantastic. What a great journey both you and Xavier have had, which is why you're such great ambassadors, for the program. So let me ask both you, Isaiah and Xavier, a fun question. You've both worked on many projects. I'll ask you first, Isaiah, are there any things you've worked on that stand out as like the toughest, or you have like a really fun story, or things that really stand out that you're so proud that you were a part of working on that stands out for you?
Yeah. So originally when I entered the studio, we were working off a different pay system where it was shot based. And we started working on Captain Marvel.
Mm.
And then I just put out shot after shot after shot and got my first big paycheck. And it was also the first Marvel movie that I worked on. And it was the first big title that I worked on. It was an experience, and very proud of it. I got to see my name in the credits, everything.
So you've had I think you've had some opportunities to go, as a group, to kind of go to a screening of some of the movies you worked on. What is that like? When you finally get to see the final product, in a community of your friends and your colleagues, like in a theater.
Oh, it's the best. Going with my friends and colleagues to go see a movie that I want to see like a day or two ahead of before everyone else gets to, it's crazy. And then on top of that, Victoria Alonso would shout us out for Exceptional Minds before the movie started. So that was always a great experience. And then as the credits roll, seeing everybody in the screening start yelling out when their names pop out, it's heartwarming, and it makes the film great.
Fantastic. Same question for you, Xavier. Tell me about any projects you've worked on that are like really stand out in terms of rewarding, or there's something really hard that you worked on that you want to share.
So I think for me, it's a combination of two films, but two very different time periods and two very different energies. So when I started at my end credits work, I got the chance to work on Black Panther. But when I started it, I didn't realize that was the film that we were working on initially. So it was interesting to see these credits that we're working on. And then I started seeing like these music lists come out. And it's like Kendrick Lamar is popping up on there. So I'm like, okay, what are we working on? And then I find out that it's Black Panther. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm already looking forward to this movie anyways, but being able to work on it and having my name on that was huge. And then to have that moment these last couple of years of working on Wakanda Forever, as much as the feeling was sad working on it because of Chadwick passing away, it was also interesting to have this full circle moment of being able to work on the second film, not just in end credits, but actually being able to supply the materials to the visual effects companies that were working on it. So I got to see it from both perspectives and the perspective of working in the studio. And I love that so much. And I think those films will always have a special place in my heart.
I actually have something to jump on that. The first time I saw his name in Black Panther in the credits was when I realized that Exceptional Minds, it's like it's making our dreams come true. I was like, I know that guy. He did that.
That's
His name
amazing.
is there.
That's fantastic. And Xavier, you've also, right, been at some of those preview screenings.
Yeah,
Finally,
yeah. I went to a couple of them. Yeah. And I think kind of bouncing off of what Isaiah was saying, it's kind of fun to hear during the credit scenes. You hear like team by team, you hear like cheering portions in the crowd. And I love that. And also it takes me back to one of the screenings that we had where it ended up raining that night. And like we were told, it's like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. It'll be fine. You could hear literally the rain pouring on the theater itself. And you're looking up and you're like, that sounds pretty bad though. But that one was a lot of fun too. I think that one was for Infinity War. So.
Fantastic. Mike, I have a couple questions for you that are coming up. So I guess the first question for you is, can you talk a little bit more on how you typically find or connect with students? What kind of groups you have partnerships with? Kind of what are some of the pathways that you look to find people to come to the Academy?
Absolutely. I think, to be frank, one of the biggest paths into the Academy over the last few years has turned into some summer and winter programs we have beyond the regular, full-time Academy program, which is for, you have to have a high school diploma, whether it's a GED or another type of high school diploma. But, beyond that, we have summer programs and winter programs that are more like short 2-week intensives about specific skills or subjects. And those are generally open. You don't have to be a part of the Academy otherwise to do them. You do have to be autistic and have some sort of diagnosis in that regard. But that's really the main limiting factor. We've had some people as young as 13, 14 in those courseworks. And a lot of our students of late have come from those programs. They found us, whether they've heard about us from other press we've done or our connection with other autistic groups, or in situations like Isaiah having a faculty member at a high school who knew about us and thought it would be a good connection. And so they come out and they try, a couple of short classes. It's a wonderful combo of allowing them to get a feel about if they really enjoy this type of work and really like working in animation or visual effects. It also allows us to get an understanding of who they are before they even come to the Academy, to better understand what their needs might be, what their interests are, and how they might be able to succeed. So that's kind of been the biggest avenue of late we've found. Beyond that, I mean, we go to recruiting events. We're going to be at CTN. We just had people at Lightbox. I was at SIGGRAPH talking with people about it. We try to make sure that we're at major conferences, at school-based events when we can in Southern California. We have a manager, a career services manager, who both helps with the students and graduates with regards to the vocational curriculum, with regards to their resumes and their interview prep and all that. But she's also actively involved in trying to help connect us with new potential students. And then from there, it's about, adding them into our community. And really our community, once they arrive and get involved, they really support each other. And I get to be the benefit on the far end of that just gets to go, oh, you've already really developed as a adult, as a person, and as an artist, and now you're a graduate. Come on in. Let me get you your first paychecks in the industry. Let me actually pay you for the work you're doing, and let me start helping you gain those extra couple of skills and connections to help move past us.
Fantastic. I think there's a couple other related questions. I think you've already answered the question about the youngest age, and right now you're here based in LA. I think we have a parent asking, is there something a parent can do to prepare their child who is still too young for the program, maybe 10 to 13, to teach them Maya or other things to get them ready? Are there any advice or resources you would have for people before they're ready to be a part of applying for your program?
You want to?
I can actually answer that.
Wonderful.
Coming to the workshops is a great thing. About the age thing, the academy starts at 18.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I think beyond that, though, I think we all know that within visual effects, you have to be, curious. You have to keep trying. So learning even now how to start to find those resources yourself to learn is important. I think there are lots of tutorials online.
Yes. Tutorials are fantastic.
I think anytime we're trying something new, you yourself are just digging through online tutorials and message boards. I can call out that, beyond that, I think it was more difficult in the past, but now things like Action VFX recently releasing, a free plates library for students, and, is really helpful in being able to start to train and practice ahead of time. I think there's definitely also just a need to understand filmmaking generally as a medium. So just getting out there and using your own iPhone. I mean, we're in an age where you can kind of make something on your own and it can look pretty good. So just getting that experience is really going to help. I think those would be a couple of the places we would start. Any other specific websites that?
I mean, a lot of the industry works in Nuke. So getting the Nuke non-commercial to work on to just practice, as well as Video Copilot. The one with the cow. So I forget the name of it, but
okay.
There's there's plenty of resources. Try the free versions of programs like Nuke, or do it in After Effects. In the academy, we started out doing things in After Effects before we moved on to Nuke, so that we got the feel of it, and it's something that we can practice at home because it's affordable.
Wonderful. We have another question that just came in. I'm just going to read it like verbatim. It says, "Hi, I have autism, and I have a question around the curriculum and roles that Exceptional Minds can prepare people with autism like me for. Are there opportunities to learn how to work in 3D modeling and look dev in Autodesk Maya for hard surface design, or sculpting in ZBrush, or PBR painting in Substance, or hair and fur work using XGen?" Who wants to do that?
I can start on that and say, yes, there are some opportunities. I think to kind of further elaborate on what Isaiah kind of explained about the academy itself is, that first year is largely, basics and, setting that foundation. And so it kind of applies across both animation and visual effects in some regard. And then you start to specialize. We do also have more of what we refer to as a 3D track. You kind of look at that as a combination between the tools you would use for whether it's gaming or 3D animation, like your Pixar, DreamWorks type features, or even into the visual effects, virtual production type asset builds for more live action feature as well. That program has been increasing in popularity. It's also something that the studio has done a little bit of, but is kind of in a reset, to be honest, at the moment. But I've got a couple of artists that have gone through that program and are pretty skilled at doing texturing and asset builds, and we've done some work for that in the past. So it's definitely something that's available and something that we continue to try and grow. Also, I will say that, you called out some specific programs, and it's good to know those specific programs, but I will say the Academy tries to focus more on process and technique and less on specific programs in some regards, because the programs develop and change so rapidly in the industry that, it's more important to understand the basics first and then learn as you're going, as you get to a specific need, how to apply that within a particular tool. I don't think it's as important to know on the Academy side when you're first graduating, understanding how to roto in Silhouette versus in Nuke. It's more important that you understand the concept of roto, and once you do, you can apply it in a new tool. So I think that probably answers your question.
Yeah, well, I want to thank the person who joined us and asked that question. Thanks for being with us. This particular webinar is part of kind of a series that we've been doing in the visual effects to really shine a light on visual effects artists and professionals from diverse backgrounds. We're really, and really talk about where we are also as an industry in terms of becoming a more diverse and inclusive, and equitable industry when it comes to recruiting people and hiring them and promoting them. And by the way, recognizing them, right, with respect and maybe even awards. So, I know, Mike, that Exceptional Minds has built some really solid long-term partnerships with a lot of employers, but I'm interested in kind of your perch on what you're seeing in terms of the receptivity in the industry, to hiring neurodiverse artists. How are we doing as an industry on being more inclusive and broadening the lens of who gets to have these fantastic roles?
I think the short answer is we're doing better and can continue to do better. The way I look at it is there's now an appetite from, different studios, different production companies, different people across the industry to try and find ways to support neurodivergent populations. But there's a lot of assumptions or misconceptions or concerns about how to approach that. And so one of our big jobs is helping to educate in that regard. And, every time that one of our artists gets placed at a studio, they help broaden that understanding and, educate more people on the fact that they're really just artists, that just like everyone else have certain needs that may be different than other people, but it's no different and there's the same capabilities. We find a lot of people ask questions about like, how do we work with you, in a way that, when you're talking to the studio, we're in some regards the same as working with any other studio. We're still bidding on the work. We still have to deliver. We still have to, provide the same communication to a client to make sure they're happy with what they're getting. And it's kind of changing that bit of perspective about what our artists are capable of is kind of what we're in the process of at the moment. I don't know if you would add anything to that. I think the one other thing I would mention real quick would be, I do want to say that, Isaiah mentioned earlier working for a couple of other companies at different points, and, Xavier is there at Marvel. I do want to make clear that these artists earn these positions themselves. We're here to support. We're here to answer questions if people that hire our graduates have questions. We're here to help make sure that any artists that are applying understand what the role is that they're applying for and that they're a good fit. And we'll provide clear understanding about that. But in the end, it is up to Xavier, it's up to Isaiah to go and earn that job, just like it would be anywhere else. And it's their talent and skill that leads to these roles for these artists.
Thank you for that. I mean, a couple of things. So Isaiah, is there anything you would say to a studio or a VFX house who has not worked with exceptional minds or any artist with autism, and anything, you would want to share with them as a message?
I would say that people on the spectrum can be a real asset to a workplace, being as there's just a unique attention to detail. They're often interesting in what they know. They might know some weird facts that you would never think that anyone would know. And just great people to work with, and it's not different than working with someone that's neurotypical, and other than the needs that they need. So give it a try. Give it a try, and oftentimes you'll find out that it's like, oh, this wasn't really a concern.
Sounds good. I guess I would ask you the same question, Xavier. Again, you're placed at a very large studio, but what do you like to share with either potential employers who haven't worked with exceptional minds, or people who just really, they don't know anybody on the spectrum, and they maybe have some myth or misinformation?
I think for me, what really benefited me the most with understanding working with individuals on the autism spectrum and just about neurodiversity in general is that if you're open to communicating in a different way and really getting to know someone, you'll be able to reach a lot of the goals that you're looking for with that. So in that case, for me, working in the classes at Exceptional Minds and seeing so many different points on the spectrum, for being on the autism spectrum, it taught me not just the ability to work with the neurodiverse community, but also how to adjust my communication styles for people that are neurotypical within the workplace as well, which is something that we do pretty much every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what it is. You just need to take those extra couple of moments to just get to know someone.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to know someone, you get to know their working style, you'll be able to reach a lot of the goals and have someone that's really passionate, just because we're being given that chance to work at a studio or to work at a workplace. It's just being given that chance is huge right there for us. So we're going to do everything that we can to succeed at that job as well.
Thank you for that. I have a few more big questions, but just a specific question. Mike, do you have any students who do have visual deficits who come through your program?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, I work on the studio side, and so, especially, I've been here just about a year and a half at this point, and so I'm, to be frank, not familiar with all of our graduates, especially if they're not on the studio side working with us actively.
Got it.
Current students, but not as far as I'm aware.
So since you just mentioned it, give us a little insight into why you made the leap to coming over to Exceptional Minds, and what your experience working elsewhere, how you've brought that into this program.
Oh, absolutely. I came out here and I ended up starting off working in 3D animation for a number of years, and eventually crossed over to visual effects, working at COSA, which led to Netflix for 4 years, helping build out a team. And it was really challenging. I learned a lot, and I really respected the people I worked with. But I eventually left, mostly due to personal, just needing a reset. And when I started looking again, I had a couple other potential offers, but Exceptional Minds was someone that I'd heard of while I was at Netflix, and very much saw the opportunity to, frankly, do more than just deliver shots. As much as I love delivering shots and love working on the projects that we get to work on, I needed a little more purpose, and being able to help these artists grow and find their success just really sang to me. It's the reason why I give my time. It's the reason why I'm happy to help, Isaiah day in, day out, learn how to be a more effective leader of his team. And, it's, I think, why everyone at Exceptional Minds that works there as faculty is there, because we all see the greater purpose and feel wonderful being able to help amazing people find the opportunities that they deserve.
Wonderful. So we all know that visual effects, the visual arts is constantly evolving, like very rapidly. So Xavier, is there anything that, really excites you, that, you're excited to kind of learn, or kind of anything upcoming for you, by the way, that you're allowed to mention that you're excited about?
I think for me, I'm excited about seeing how our team and the process that we use keeps evolving, but also how the community that I have at work, how we grow tighter, we grow closer. I think it's because you don't put technology and like community growing together, but it is there. And I know for me, recently I got an award from Exceptional Minds, the Exceptional Alumni Award. And there was a party that was given to me that I didn't realize was going to happen at work. Totally caught me off guard. But it was great, and they went full out with it. And just to know that there is that community sense there, and that we're just that close of a team, it makes me happy, and it makes me realize that like I want other people to be able to have those opportunities as well. So it just gives me hope in a lot of ways. I think that's something that's really stood out to me working within the studio and within visual effects itself.
And how about you, Isaiah? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about that comes next?
I'm looking forward to working with new types of work, doing some more creative stuff, maybe, as well as just developing our studio to be like a studio that's known for putting out good work. And yeah, I mean, it's always looking forward to new programs, new plugins. Working with new things is why I do this.
Got it. So Mike, any last words from you? I can't believe the hour flew by.
Yeah, it did. I guess the last thing I would say is, we're a small nonprofit doing big work and big things. And that is only thanks to all the wonderful partners that have helped us, that have supported us, from Autodesk to Adobe to Foundry, the different studios. A number of the VFX studios have also helped at different points. And so I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to mention two things. We're always looking for more people that want to help inspire and educate our artists. There are opportunities to help, whether it's, reaching out to the studio to potentially work on some shots with your team and be able to then help these artists understand, new workflows and different workflows than what they may have learned here. Then there's continuing education opportunities. We have these things called PACs. They're program advisory committees that help us, they're industry professionals talking with our academy about the curriculum and about how else to properly prepare our students and graduates for the entry-level roles of 5 years from now, as opposed to today. But then beyond that, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, now through Giving Tuesday is our end of year campaign. We've got any new gifts or any increased gifts that are provided to us at this time will be matched by, I believe, JP Morgan. So if you have any interest in donating, please go to exceptional-minds.org. And there's a big donate button on there.
Okay.
It really helps the academy side. the studio, obviously we do charge for some of the work we do, but we are a nonprofit, and any of those funds help us cover any shortfalls, as well as continue to provide continuing education opportunities for our graduates and our artists.
Yeah, I'd also like to add something in
Sure.
terms for anyone that's looking to work with neurodiverse people, you can always reach out to us and talk to us about what's needed to start the process.
That's a great call.
Wonderful. I guess I'll ask you, Xavier, any last words?
I really appreciate opportunities like this, because I feel like it gives you a firsthand look at individuals working like within the studios, right, that are neurodiverse. And Isaiah, I've just known you for so long, and just to know that both of us have these places of success and that we're really making it happen, it just makes me so happy to see that. Because I remember all the times in school too, and oh my God, like we were so busy with it. But to see where we are now, it makes it all worth it right there.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. It's been such an honor to get to know all of you, and I hope we'll keep that relationship going. So I want to very much thank you, Isaiah, Xavier, and Mike from Exceptional Minds. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today, both on the Zoom and a lot more people watching on Facebook Live for our VES Autodesk. This is a mouthful. Ask Me Anything VFX Pros Tell All webcast series. As I mentioned at the front end, and we'll put up on the screen, to view today's webcast and learn more about the Visual Effects Society and Autodesk, you can visit, I think, these websites and social media platforms that may be popping up on the screen momentarily. And we will share the replay there. And of course, we will give you Exceptional Minds as well. And we hope that we'll share things on Exceptional Minds social media. And as I mentioned to all of you and to people who are tuning in, we're going to share some excerpts of this conversation in the January issue of our VFX Voice magazine, which will also get some great readership from around the world. So with that, I'm going to just say thank you again. You're all exceptional ambassadors and artists and role models. And I guess with that, I'm going to say that's a wrap. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.